Hey everyone, welcome back to Greatest Access Tutorial Ever. I'm Jeremy, your host. Today we're going to be learning SQL. This is a beginner course. SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and is how we start to talk databases. Now, if you are brand new to this channel and you're following the Access tutorial, this is part of the main quest line. Here you can see what's afterwards. We're going to see how fast we can get through this. What is SQL? Structured Query Language is how you talk to databases, basically. Now, there are lots of dialects of SQL, right, with extra commands, but for now, we're just going to be going over the basic stuff because the basic stuff is still really powerful. So, what are the basic commands? I call them the four horsemen of basic SQL operations. It's select, insert into, delete, and update, and their names are pretty much self-explanatory. Now, what are these four commands? Select will get you data. It's the safest to play with, but not 100% because sometimes you can do some certain things and you may bog down a server, or just if it's a really bad query, it may run really slow. So it's not 100%, but it's pretty close. Next is update. Caution with that because you're going to be updating data to a table. Insert is kind of safe because you're making new records, but again, depending on the database, it's still not really super safe. And then delete. Delete is, of course, the most dangerous one. So we're going to bounce away from that and we're going to go straight to this sample database. And you can see my timer down here so I don't go too far. This right here is just a sample table, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through some SQL statements with you, and then you can see the results on the screen here. So this is just a sample table of just fake people I've invented, and we're going to first start with select statements. So now let's look at the basic structure of a select statement. It's select your fields or values from, where you're getting it from, where, and order by. Now you'll see the asterisks here. That means those fields are optional. You can include one, you can include both, you can include zero. Technically the from is also optional, but on most cases, but for now, we'll just consider it as required. So let's look at a sample query. Select star. So if you're familiar with coding or maybe MS-DOS days or something, star means everything, right? So select everything from table people, and we have the caveat here. This will select all the records from this table in no particular order. So let's run it, and here are the results of that query. Now you'll notice they are in ID order, but this is not guaranteed when you do a select statement without an order by clause. It'll just give you the records however it sees fit at any given moment. Let's look at the next example. Select last name, first name as first space name from table people where their age is less than 40, order by middle name and last name. All right, so now we're starting to mix it up. So first you can see I use this special keyword as. That's called an alias. So if I don't want it to appear as first name, but I want it to appear as first space name, I have to use brackets because that field has a space in it. And then I also put a where in here. I'm only looking for people who are less than 40, and then I'm going to order by their middle name and then their last name. And you'll notice I did not select the middle name, but as long as the middle name is in the source, so there's middle name, as long as middle name is in this source, then this will run. And if we hit run, here are the results of that. Here from this table are all the names where their age is less than 40, and then I've sorted by middle name and then last name. Now let's look at another example. So sometimes you may have fields that have these weird symbols in front of them, right, that aren't your normal alphabetical things, or you may have items, either fields or tables with spaces. You need to put them in brackets, but don't worry, if you don't know the rule, you can put everything in brackets and it will run just fine. So there we have it. Here I'm doing a select last name, pound first name. Let's see, it grabbed it from table list of people. Now I'm not showing you that source, but trust me, it's just a copy of this table where the person's age is greater than or equal to 40. Now notice I do the where, but it's not in here because the person age or the age was not in the select statement. So that is pretty easy. And we're going to hit one more example. This is to make a backup table. So you have a special command you can do with select called select star into the target table from the source table. And if we run that, this is right now table people back, and it is a copy of this. Now there are some caveats to that. For instance, this table here this field is identified as a primary key. If you don't know what that is, go check out episode 1.1. This table, even though it has the field ID, it is not designated as a primary key. So this command right here will only copy data over. It doesn't make this table have the same kind of parameters, basically, I guess, with the fields, with the options of the fields. So you have to go into table design, set your ID over to a primary key, or use other commands. There are other commands in SQL that can do this. This is just kind of a data copy. It's a really good way of backing up a table if you need to very quickly. Now, if you already have a table called table people underscore back, it may overwrite that. So always check to make sure you aren't about to overwrite that table. It depends really on what database you're using. You may get different results if you try to overwrite a table that already exists. Now let's go to the update command. Here's what an update command looks like. And again, this is just to update data that is already in a table. So you update destination, and then you have a set clause, and then the optional where clause. Pretty simple. So let's look at one. Update table people, set last name equal to Smith. So when you're referring to a text value, like I'm going to set something equal to a text value of Smith, you have to use single quotes in SQL. If we run this, we see the results. Everyone's last name has been set to Smith. Now that's horrible, so let's undo that. Let's look at another update. Update table people, set age equal 27 where age is greater than 40. So now we've got this where clause in here where we're only looking for ages that are greater than 40. If we find them, we're going to set the age to 27. We run it, and here we go. Here are the ages that were above 40, and now they're at 27. Let's reset the table and look at the last one. Now we can update multiple fields at once, and we can have multiple kind of Boolean logic on our where statement. Update table people, set last name equals Smith and birthday equal #1/1/2024, pound where last name is not equal Smith and birthday is not equal 1/1/24. When you're referring to a date in SQL, you have to wrap it in these hashtags or pound marks. When we hit run, we see that everyone was caught by this where statement except for Jenny Smith. Because her last name was Smith, this where statement failed, and therefore she was not included in that update statement. Now let's go into insert into. Very easy to do. Here's the structure of it. Insert into, where do you want to insert it? The field list and then your value list. So for instance, insert into table people. Here are the fields. Now these fields must match what's in the actual table, and then the values, the count of the values has to be the count of the fields, and this will insert a single record if we run it. Now we have a new record here. Again, this is not in any particular order, but we have George Jetson, so he would appear in the table people. Now, what if we do something a little more complex? There is a way to insert multiple records into the table, right? So, and you use the insert into table people, right? So we're pushing into this table, the last name, birthday, select last name, birthday from table people back, that backup table we made earlier where last name equals Smith. So we're going to run this, and now what it did, now realize we only inserted a last name and a birthday, and here those new records are. You have a last name and a birthday, and that is it. We didn't grab the first name, middle name, or the age, so the age apparently defaults to 0 on this table. So we were only inserting last name and first name. We were selecting the last name and first name from the backup table where last name equals Smith. So it found 2 people. Remember, that back table is just a copy of this table. So it was going through, it found these 2 named Smith. We only selected the last name and the birthday. Those carried over, and we basically pushed those from the backup table to this live table here. We're missing fields, but as many as found from that select, or the where statement rather, we'll get into this. Now, if you ever want to test any of these queries, you can always write it as a select statement. So for instance, if you wanted to know how many people were going to be affected by this, you could just say, okay, let me write a select query, select last name, blah, 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 where, blah, run it, and you'll say, oh, it has 2 people. Okay, now I'm going to make that into an insert statement. The last one is a delete. Now, delete is, of course, very dangerous because you're deleting records. Here's the structure of a delete. Delete star from source where clause is optional. Now, you may think, oh, let me just try to delete a field. That's not how SQL works in this instance. If you say delete first name from source where, it's still going to delete the entire record. So just use delete star in this instance just to remind yourself that it is entire record. So let's look at a delete statement. Delete star from table people. This is going to delete all the records in the table people, but the table itself will still be there. So when we run it, there's the results of that table. They're blank. Now let's reset our table. What if we do this? Delete star from table people where their last name is not equal to Smith. That should eliminate all but 2 records, and yep, that's exactly what happened. So this would be the result of the table after running that delete. And we are done. That is just a little over 10 minutes. Thank you so much. If you found this, now I do have some stuff for the Access people. So this is applicable to basically any database that runs SQL. Thank you so much. If you like this, please subscribe, hit the like, bell for notifications. For Access people, you may be wondering, well, why do I care to have to know how to write these text simple SQL statements? And because if you have been playing around in Access and if you go to Create Query Designer, you have a Query Designer here. So let me go back to my laptop screen. You have Query Designer here when you go to Create Query Design. So why in the world do we need to know SQL? Well, multiple reasons. Number one is to be able to parse when things go wrong. Number two is when you're working with forms and bound items, a lot of times it's really easy just to type in simple SQL to get your form working. So for instance, on this particular thing we just did, if I go into design mode, what I've done is I'm able to put a row source for this dropdown, etc. Just straight using code, right? So I don't need to go into Query Designer and do all this weird stuff. I just know how to do it. Plain text. Again, this is very beginner SQL. It doesn't cover joins, and SQL can get very complex depending on the complexity of the query. But this is just the stuff to get you started, and even those 4 basic commands are very helpful. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy this, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.